in the different ways to use the smaller memory keeper insert creator dies. I'm going to use the memorable moments one, and I'm going to do this video in real time, so it gives you an idea of how quickly a book can come together or how long it does. Now, as I said, I'm using the memorable moments, and I'm going to mainly focus on just the outside edge for now, nothing to do with decoration. So let's just move them out of the way. What I've done is I have cut myself, as you can see, a whole load of different coloured bits of card. And the reason for that is sometimes if you use the same colour card on top of each other, it's really hard to see where we've glued, where we haven't glued. So I'm going to just move bits and pieces out of the way, so bear with me. Now the book I made, which was the one with the mermaids, and use the mermaid dies, I'm going to try and show you how I did that book first and how it came about. So I started in the middle and I actually worked my way outwards. That was because I wanted to alternate the pages and I wanted to make a different type of spine. So what I did was with the first one, I actually folded in a different way. Now you get 3 crease lines. So I folded the middle crease line, as you can see there, and I folded the top crease line, so the crease line nearest to the longest page. And then on the shorter page, I left that crease line. So that now becomes my middle bit. What I then did with the next page was I actually creased the 2 outer parts. So now I've got a bigger crease and a smaller crease. So when I put them inside each other, I've got a bit of a gap. But I wanted to do mine so they went short, long, short, long, short, long. So let's stick those together. Now I would normally use red liner tape and glue, but for speed I'm just going to use normal double-sided tape. So for this one, I'm going to put my glue there, because remember I've only folded it in the first 2 creases. And this is when now I say I'm going to use normal double-sided tape because it'd be quicker, and it turns out not to be. And then what I've done is, because I'm using those 2, I actually folded it. It's really tricky to see. Let's see if I can get a pen. Oh, let's have a look. There we go. So what I want to do is I actually want to try and do it so that that crease is going to sit on that middle fold line there. And that way I've centralised it in between the 2 sides. Let's do that like that. So I'm just going to line it up. And there we go. And fold back that way. So now I've got a situation that I'm hoping the camera's picking it up. I've got a gap there. It's not necessarily the 1 centimetre gap if you were going to do lots of layering, but it's a good 7-8 mil gap. So you could, when you open up the pages here, you do have room to build up your layers. I would use probably the bigger pages to build up the layers than the smaller pages. And that was the starting point for my book. Now what I did next, let's grab white now so we can see, oh, that I haven't folded. What I did next was I then looked at what I've already got and what type of book I was going to do, i.e. was it just going to be flat, was it going to be lots of layers? So what you could do next, let's look at it that way, is you can fit that now in there. Hold on, I'll hold it. So now I've got different pages. The only thing is when you put them in like that against each other, these 2 here are very, very close. So these would have to be flat layers. And I didn't really want to do that. So what I actually did was I cut it straight down the middle. And I'm just going to add some tape. Now I would use thinner tape, because what I'm doing is I'm putting the tape, I'll see if I can lift it up after I've done it. So I'm leaving myself about a 5-6 mil gap. And that, oh, it's the bane of my life, isn't it? I'm going to fold that over for now. So now I've got a situation that I can put this panel on. Just lining it up. Let's do it flat, probably, instead of waving it in the air would probably be a lot better. So now I've got the shorter panel. I've created, still got my gap. And I can then make those pages bulkier if that's what I want to do. So I'm going to do exactly the same on this side. I'm not going to put my tape all the way down, probably about halfway, because these are, I think, just over a centimetre. So just doing it over halfway allows you, at least you know you've got a 5 mil gap. All right, let's just get rid of that. So again, I'm going to do exactly the same again. And once you've got your book together, it's easy to pick up and see. So let's line that there. So now I've created my book. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got the gaps in between. And the only bit of cutting that I've done so far was to cut this bit away here. What you can do is, although I've cut this little bit here, is you can create yourself a strip to go in the middle, which makes the whole of this rigid, if that's what you want to do. I did do that only because I thought when people were looking on at the book, it just makes things all line up and line up properly. And the quickest way to do that is, let's grab another piece of card, is if I cut this away, is take one of the strips that you've got and it will fit in the gap you've got there. And that just neatens the whole thing up. Now, in doing that, it looks like that the pages would have worked if I'd have just stuck them inside each other. And they would have worked, but I wanted a little bit more of a gap because I wanted to use different die cuts and I wanted to make pockets to use on the book. So there we go. And in doing that as well, I've made the spine a little bit more rigid. So that was just the basis of my book. But what I needed to do was, I was going to use this as the front cover, but I didn't want a small page on the back. So all I did was I took another one and I stuck it in place. Now that can stick over the top, or you can do it so it sits as a flap. And that's exactly what I did. So if I get another colour, let's do green. I'm going to fold these. So what I meant was, I want my back cover and I wanted it to be large. But then I'm left with the smaller front cover bit here. And that's fine, because what I actually then did was I just cut away this. Remember, using all the bits that you cut away. I'm going to get some tape. And I'm going to overlap the tape here. When I made my book, I used just different sizes of red liner tape. Oh, bane of my life. I mean, I use red liner tape, but then I will put a layer of glue on top of the red liner tape. It just takes away that horrible feeling that, you know, the red liner tape's down and there's nothing you can do now if you need to move your pages. So at present, that's my front cover, but my back cover's a small page. So all I'm going to do is I now want to make this my back cover. So I want to do my 1/2 mil gap again, as you can see that I've done there. Line it up. And then just stick down. So now I've created my book. I've got 2 larger outside front covers, and then I've got large, small, large, small, large, small. And in layering it up that way, I've got a good spine. Now mine's not holding together because I'm using lots of different weight card, which isn't the best thing to do. I mean, use the same weight card. However, if you were matching layering, it was fine. And then all I did was to just measure. Now the one thing I didn't get out was a ruler. There we go. All I did was measure there, and it's roughly 4.5 by 13 and a smidgen. Good old technical term. So let's grab a piece of scrap card. Whoops, sorry. So I'm going to use this, so roughly 4.5. Get rid of that. So that's my width there. And let's mark. Oh, where's my line gone? Oh, there. I can't see it for looking. Let's get rid of that. Let's move those. So now I can cover up all my workings. I've made my spine a lot sturdier in doing so. And where the spines are concerned, I would cover the whole lot in glue or tape, because you don't want any area sticking out of the way. Chuck it on the floor. If you hear any padding noises, it's my dog. He finds it weird that if I'm talking to myself. Right, so we've got the spine there. So all I'm going to do is tuck that bit in. I'm hoping I'm central in the camera. Is line that up, and then I've neatened off my spine. So now I've created the book. I've got a sturdy spine. Everything when you look down on it looks neat, which was my main focus when I made the book, was that everything looked neat. And it does. I mean, I've rushed mine. I would neaten those off. And that was the book. And then all I did for a notebook was I just cut loads of these shapes in copier paper or whatever paper you've got, and folded them. And I then just wrapped a piece of elastic around there, which means the pages could go inside, and that way you can make your book bigger, smaller, however you want to do it. So that was the first way of making the book. And as you can see, it comes together quite quickly. We've made 1 or 2 cuts, but on the whole, we haven't done too many. Now, in doing it this way and adding little bits on, bit by bit to the spine, that is one of the other ways that you can increase the width of your smaller books. And it's a brilliant way of doing it. The other thing I did with one of my books was I punched a hole, and I used the tabs that the dies come in, you know, the little plastic things that I use a fork on to flip off. And I put a hole, I put a piece of elastic through, put the tab through, and squashed the two together, which meant then when I opened the elastic, it was a way of holding the book together as well. So as the book got bigger, the elastic allowed it to do it, but whilst it was smaller, it also kept it together. So that is one quick way to make a book using those insert creator dies. Any questions, let me know. And as you can see, it didn't take me that long. Okay, I've prepped in advance, i.e. I've cut out lots of sheets, but other than that, the making of it didn't take very long at all. I'm going to say before I quickly go, if you want to make pockets, I've got this bit left over that I cut away. This is when you can start putting things on the inside that you cut away, so don't get rid of them. Now this isn't the exact match, but all I would do is just trim it to match, and I've now got myself a pocket. And or you can cut it off from that bit over there and you've got a smaller pocket, but you've actually got yourself a little bit of a pocket there. and you can put things in. So don't throw these little bits away. They're great for the front covers if you want to put pockets in and not decoration, so you can start doing things straight away. So keep all those little bits, because you'll be surprised how much you use them. Even down to the bigger bits, because you can still use this to cut out your next layer down, your matte layer from your dies, which would then sit in between. So all those bits do keep and do reuse, because you'll be surprised how much you actually get out of them. Now, one of the other things I did do was, this is one of the ones I've taken over, and people were talking about different flaps. So if I fold this back again here, so use a bone folder, I can now line it up on the straight part, and I've created another flap inside my book. Okay, so I could add that there. I can add a magnet if I wanted to. I could glue it down and make a pocket, but then that way I have created another flap, and that's all by using the different waste just to create this simple album. Well, I hope that makes sense. I'm going to tidy up a few bits, pause the video, and then I've got another way to show you too. Right, I've tidied up, and now on to another way to create your book and your spine. So let's get some bits together. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold some pages together, but on the crease only at the moment of the longer side. So let's do 1, 2, and what other? Oh, let's do 3. So they're going to be the ones I'm going to do for the moment. All right. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold on the centre crease. So there's 1, and I'm going to fold it back and forwards like that. Let's do the same to this one. Oh, let's move that bit of ribbon. There we go. And this one here. Now, I'm going to do something that's only got 3 pages, 3 double pages. You could do whatever you want to do and however many you want. So what we're going to do is, we are actually now going to glue these together, but I only want to glue them on, let's move that, on the inside part. So let's do that one. And glue that down. Do the same with this one. And I'm using it, and I'm keeping within the score lines, because I know what I'm going to do. And glue that one down. And with the final one, do this one down. This way, I did for one of the other books I made for the launch. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was the baby book, because I wanted to have a really strong spine, because I use lots of different acetates and pockets with that one. So now I've got my 3 bits, and I'm just going to crease those bits up so it sits like that. So it's 1, 2. There is no harm, keep going over your creases. 3. And what I'm going to do is these bits, when I stick them down, will become my pages, but also my reinforced spine. So I've got a piece of scrap card, as you can see, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to add, whoops, some glue to those tabs there. If I do all of them at once, it'd be a lot quicker. Oh, this glue. Not glue, double-sided tape. Alright. So I've got my 3 bits. Let's start with the green first. And get it away. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to line it up against the top of my scrap piece of card. Let's have a look. There we go. Now, if you're worried about keeping straight, draw some lines in pencil. No one's going to see. I'm going to push that down. So let's get the next one. Come on, that's it. Now, I know that the gap is going to be identical because I'm using exactly the same crease lines for my spacing. And that has been done by the dies, which is brilliant. So that's that one. And then do the next one. Now, as I said before, you could make this as big as you want. I'm only, for speed to show you guys, I'm only going to do 3. So that one goes along there. Let's put that in place. But I am going to fold back. So now, if I hold this up, you can see that I have created a base for my book. I've got the gaps in between that I want, which is brilliant, and I've got double pages. Now, the double pages beside each other are close together, but they could be just where your photos go. And then, oh, excuse me, on the outside is where you could put your bulky layers, your tabs, your pockets, so on and so forth. Now, what do we do next? Right, I'm going to cut away the excess. If you prefer, use a trimmer. And I'm left with these bits here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, because I want a bigger cover, I'm going to see if I've got enough bits left over everywhere. If not, will be lots of different covers, doesn't matter. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that I have the same gap there. So my cover's there. So all I'm going to do is, where's my bone folder? Bone folder or pokey tool, whatever you prefer, is I'm going to run along the edge, as you can see. I'm going to push that bit up. Give it a good crease. I always like to crease both ways just to make sure I really have pushed those fibres down. So that's there. And taking that die, I've just cut away top part there. And I'm going to stick it. Now, you've got choices here. You could stick it to the outside and cover the whole lot. Or you could stick this to the inside and then cover the inside. I'm going to stick it to the inside because I think it's easier sometimes to cover the inside. Because you could add a pocket over this bit here if you didn't want to show everybody what you've done. So, again, I wouldn't use as wide a tape as I'm doing. I'll just tuck those bits over. I'm just going to line this up. Top tip for you, try not to go too near to your crease. Like, your crease line is there, because if you go against your crease line, that is the natural movement of your book, and you can stilt it a little bit. So just try and go a little bit before it. And this is when I was saying I can't. I put wet glue on top of the tape, so that gives me that little bit of time to do it. Right, there we go. So now I've got my front cover, as you can see, and I've still got my spacing. We can do our spacing here. You can cut a strip away and work out your spacing. You can eyeball it. You can do whatever you want to do. The choice is yours. I'm going to be dreadful and eyeball it. Right, let's get a ruler. So, let's have a think. If I work this way, gives me a rough idea. You could use your dies, and you could cut a bit piece there. You could measure. I'll explain what I mean in a moment. Right, so let's do that. Let's fold that back again. There we go. And then all I'm going to do, if I cut another one, no. Just cut another piece. Move that out way. I'm going to put my tape again. on there. And then I'm just going to add this part. And remember when I said try not to go right up against the crease line. You're leaving about 1 millimetre sort of thing. There we go. There I have made another book. I've got a lovely rigid spine, and I've still got double pages and places where I can add my bulk to it. If you wanted to be a little bit more precise, you could measure the gap in between those. What do I do with my ruler? Here it is. And it's approximately 1.3. And you could add up. So you could go 1.3, 1.3, 1.3, and then add another 1.3 there, and so on and so forth, and cut your card. Personally, I just go with the flow. Because it's easier to cut away cards than it is to do all those lovely precise measurements and then realise it didn't quite work. So that is another quick way to make your book. You've got the gaps in between. You know that they're going to be the same uniform gaps because you've used your dies to actually do that. You've got a really good, as you can hear there, rigid spine. You've got bits that I've cut off. Again, I can sit there and I can use them as part of pockets. I could, let me have a think. Okay. What I could do. All right, I'm going to fold, let's get the bone folder out, be easier. Otherwise it's not going to work. Oh. Now, I've made like a box fold. As you can see there, if I add another piece to it and then stick that to my cover, I've created a greater depth. I could butt this up against the spine and I've made another page, or I could put a couple of tabs and I've made a deeper pocket. What I mean by a couple of tabs is, let's cut a piece, that's probably easier. Like, these aren't precise. I'm just going to fold quickly. You would be a little bit more precise than I am. What I mean by a couple of tabs is, oh, that's a little bit too wide. As I said, you guys would be a little bit more precise than I am. So, a couple of tabs, I meant that I'd stick one there, and one on the inside, one round there, and one on there. And I've made myself like a little box that I can stick to the inside. So I've made a really deep pocket there to put more substantially a notebook, envelopes, lots of different things. And obviously the depth of this denotes how big. So do keep those pieces. So that, let's push them out of the way, is another way, a quick way to make a book. And as you've seen, I know I've die cut them, but all I've done is, well, just die cut the bits ready to go. The rest of the time you saw me make it as in front of you. Right, what I've done is I've taken the die from the new release, the one that leaves a crease, and I've cut that out in card ready to use. So I'm pretending that that is going to be my page as if I was going to stick it into an album. So let's just put them out of the way. Then what I've done is I've taken a couple of pages and I'm going to fold them in half. And I've done that for 2 of them. All right. And on the pages, let's move that white one out there and I'll explain. I'm going to use the little hole dies. And the brilliant thing about it is, where's my pokey tool? Because of the crease lines, you can visually see where's the best place to place those dies. So obviously taped it down top and bottom so it doesn't move, and I've run it through the die cutting machine. And I've done it twice, so I've got, I'm just chucking everything out of the way. I've got one in blue and I've got one in green, as you can see there. All right. Now, going back to this page. This is my page here. As you can see, I haven't trimmed it all down. So how did I do the holes? Oh, look at the mess I've got everywhere. What I did was let's get a scrap piece of card. I took my dies, my sheet that was already cut. So imagine it's this sheet. And I lined it up where I wanted it to go. And I then drew through. Okay, I did a couple of holes. I didn't do all of them. And I roughly marked where I believe the middle was. Because even though this die is quite small, as you can see, it's got those holes all the way through it. And the other die has the one that does the circular holes. So now I can line this up over where those centre parts are, through, tape it down, and that would be my exact placement of when I put it through that works to add the other pages on. So doing exactly that, let's move that out of the way. This is what I did with this page here. Oh, sorry about all the doodling on here. And I've measured it up that way. Now, I haven't trimmed my page to sizes yet. Because obviously it's a work in progress, so let's just do that for the moment and get rid of those. So that would be my page. They're my fold lines ready to go. So let's go back to these two. What I am going to do though is I am going to crease them. And I'm really going to make sure that the creases are top notch. Now the creases are brilliant. But for the technique we're going to use next, we won't have as much play with these to redo the creases. Now I'm going to hold this and I'm going to crease on the top and create the crease that way. So I am I'm creating another crease. Even though it's only going to be millimetres, if that, from the creases put in by the dies. Alright, so I've creased it and then creased that way. I'm going to do exactly the same with this one. I'm going to crease, hold it, I'm going to push this one over and crease again. Right, so they're done and they're ready. Now, what I thought would be good was to show you a way that you can use these in your books, and it doesn't need glue. It's just something a little bit different, and it adds decoration at the same time. Now I'm dealing with the white page here. If I was making this into an album, I would have stuck down my backing sheets, both sides, and then I would have done the die cutting. So it went through both sides at the same time. Because once you have done this, it's going to be very hard to cut everything again, and it just means more cuts than you need to do. So do all your backing papers first, or your inky techniques, or whatever you're going to do, your stamping, and then die cut the holes. Right, so I'm going to take a piece of ribbon, and we're going to use ribbon. I'm just using a nice bright ribbon just to give you, so you can see what I'm doing. Right, I'm champering the edges. If you have got those plastic darning needles, they're brilliant because they'll go through. If not, just put a piece of sellotape. So what we're going to do is we're going to create interactive pages on two sides using the same thing. So if I show you, it's probably going to be better than the way I'm trying to describe it. So this one will go on here, and this one, I'm trying to line it up, will go on this side. So on this page, I've got these going forward, and I've got these going on that side. And as I said, I'm going to use ribbon. Now, to start it off, I'm going to be honest, it's not hard at all. It's just fiddly. Okay, it's just fiddly. Try and choose a ribbon or a twine or something that's the same either side. It saves you having to twist and worry about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to feed the ribbon through the top hole of one set of my pages, through the base page, and as you can see, this is what I mean when I say it's just fiddly, because they flip everywhere. Do I want that way? Oh, which way? Oh, it makes no difference. And through the top hole of this one. Gosh, Louise, hold it. That's it. Grab it. That's it. Alright, so I'm not worried about lining them up at the moment. What I am trying to do is just get my ribbon to a roughish same sort of length. So that is going to be my layout. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start threading the ribbons through and using them in different ways. So on the green side, I'm going to create a design that looks like running stitch, and on this side, I don't know, have a name for it. If someone could come up with a name for it, please do. So I'm going to put the ribbon through the green layer. She says if it plays ball with me. So I'm going to put it through the green layer. Thread it through the white and the blue. Now, once you've got a few of the ribbon bits in places, you'll find that your layers will actually line up straight away. Now, one thing I am going to say is try not to get your ribbon twisted like I've just done. Right, there we go. So I'm going to pull that through. So that's the first move we've done there, as you can see. I'm going to turn it over. This is the ribbon I've put through, so I'm going to ignore it and push it to one side, and I'm going to use this ribbon here. And I'm going to come down, go past this, and I'm going to go to the hole underneath. See if I can try and hold everything and go through in one go. I'm going to go to the hole underneath and pull it through. As I said before, try and untwist it as you do it. So when I pull it through this time, it's, instead of doing a running stitch, it's done like a form of a chain stitch. I don't know. Sewing isn't my strong bit, so I've done a stitch like that. Okay, so that one's sitting there. So I'm back over to the green side. I'm going to thread the ribbon through, but to the top of the two holes. And as you can see, because it's now getting in place, I can just thread it through and it works straight away. So now that's my second stitch. Flip back over to the blue. I'm going to ignore this part and I'm going to use this part of the ribbon. So it's now going to go, grab both together, onto that bottom hole there, and I'm going to pull it through and pull it through. So as you can see now with the second stitch, it's creating like a different type of stitch. So back to the green, and this is our running stitch. Ribbon again, and I'm going to go through the top hole out of the pair, pull it through, flip back to the blue, going to ignore this one that I've just pulled through, and I'm going to get the one that was already there, and I'm going to put that through the bottom. Move that out of the way. Oh, that's twisted, so that's going to bug me. Sorry. Let's turn that around. Pull that through. Flip back to the green. And repeat. So this is now going to go through there. So it was going straight, and then as I pull it, it twists. Alright, there we go. Back to the blue again, ignore the one I've just pulled through and take the one that was already on the page and put it through and pull it. So as you can see now, we've got a nice little twist to it, to different types of sewing. I'm going to go back through to the green, and I'm going to push that all the way through. Have I gone through? Yeah. So on this side, that is all I'm going to do. So we'll talk about. So now this side, I've got a beautiful running stitch. I've used ribbon. I mean, you could use twine. You could use absolutely anything that you want to do. You could use, before I did the ribbon, where are they? Use the smaller die that creates the decorative features for the holes as an additional support if you wanted to. I haven't, just for speed. So that's this side done. So I've got a beautiful ribbon running stitch. The page, is securely in place. I've got different flaps I can use. and I've still got this area here. So I've added a few flaps that way. Right, so I'm going to go to this bit here. And what I'm going to do is I've turned it now so the stitches go in the opposite way and my ribbons are at the top. And I'm going to now tie a bow or a knot, whatever you prefer to do. It doesn't matter. So if you wanted to do a knot, if you wanted to just do a knot at the top, do a knot at the top. The choice is yours. I'm just going to do a bow. I'm not normally a bow person, so forgive me. I'm normally a knot person. Alright, let's grab those. Let's push that behind. There we go. Now I've just been fiddling because I want to get the tails behind. So now I've got at the top here a bow. Now it's up to you how much you cut that down, whether you leave it, but I've hold that in place there. I can still do my pages, 1, 2, and I've still got this area. But when I stick this page into my memory book, once I've creased it, both sides have been done. You've not used any glue at all, and yet you've decorated them, you've secured them in place with a different way of doing it, and it's added decoration straight away. So that's quite a quick, simple way of using it. If you wanted to use magnets on it, this is where my dots are, I'd put a magnet on the smaller, and I would line up, work out where it would be on this bit. And you could easily do that by, using an offcut. So I know that that's the offcut. I want to put a magnet a little bit near the top there. So all I can do is I can put this in place, and with a pokey tool, push through, and I've made a little mark where I'd like the magnet to go on this side. So I'd put a magnet there, cover it with my layers, magnet there. Okay, now I know I said about putting your backing paper on first, but that doesn't mean you have to do your photographic layer. That could come afterwards. Does that make sense? So that would hide the magnet. And then it's the same. I've got my little dot there, and I'm going to put a magnet there. So when I close the page up, which is top there, the magnets should hold. You've got enough magnets there to hold, rather than having to put a magnet on each flap. I mean, if you put the crown jewels in the book, then no, obviously the magnets won't hold. But that would work together, so you've got all the bits down. So you've now created an interactive page with a little bit of interest. And added bonus, a little bit of decoration as well. So all I've done in these videos is just show you quick ways to make the books, and quick ways, or this page in particular, how to decorate the books. There are lots and lots of different ways, and the DT of all of us have made ours in different ways. So have a look out for what they've made as well. Any questions, drop me a PM via Facebook, put it underneath the video. Love my blog, so pop over to my blog and leave a comment there. And I'll pick them up and I'll try and answer them the best I can. I hope that's helped a little bit more. I can't wait to see what you make. Have fun. See you soon.